Welcome back to Come Home with Jennah. I am Jennah Sears. I am your favorite North Texas realtor. And y'all, I have a great show for you today. I am going to go through some of your questions. So at the end of my show, I always ask you, bring me your questions. I can't wait to answer your questions. And boy, did you guys show up this past week. I have a ton of questions, and I am going to hopefully give you some succinct answers that are going to help when you are looking to buy, sell, or even rent a home. So let's get into it. My first one is, and this comes up all the time in real life too. This is probably one of the questions I get asked the most, hands down. When is the best time to sell your home? The short answer, whenever you need to, because there's always going to be buyers and there's always going to be sellers. It really needs to work for you. Are there more advantageous times? Are there times where the market is busier? Absolutely. So NAR tells us, and that's the National Association of Realtors, of course, that during May, June, July, and August, those months are when around 40% of all homes being sold for the year will be sold. So everyone talks about the summer rush. The summer rush. School here in Texas ends at the end of May. I know up north, sometimes it goes into June, but we go back to school in August. So a lot of times people will want to get their move done and over before school starts and after it ends. It just makes it easier for the buyer. So sellers will prep their homes to sell in those months. The other nice part about those months, especially here in Texas, is that everything is green and lush unless it's dry and disgusting. But usually it makes for beautiful pictures, and it really is going to show off those homes in their very best summery light, especially if you have features like a pool or an outdoor area that just really lends itself to some lush garden areas. So yes, there are months where more homes are sold, but let me give you some other key times. Let's talk about the Super Bowl. The week after that Super Bowl is when people typically will see that first pop of buyers come into the market. So yes, we can absolutely list your home in January, and there will be buyers in January. But if you wait until after the Super Bowl, typically that's when people are gearing up for spring. Spring is actually one of my favorite times to sell a house, just because you kind of have a smaller competition. So meaning there will be less homes on the market, but buyers are really gearing up for summer and they're going to start looking. And once, we all know, when buyers start looking and they fall in love, they're going to purchase. So there's less homes on the market if you can get in those spring months. So March, April. Those are great months for me. I love them. So that is kind of the thought process of that. The next big pop of buyers that typically will come into the market is going to be around spring break. So whatever home I'm listing, I always look at the school district that it's zoned for, and I check when their spring break is. There's a couple ways to do this. You could go on the market right before spring break. I like to go right after. Everyone's getting back in town, they're settled back into school, and we're making that last push until May when that big 40% number begins. So that, I think, is the best time. But remember, whenever you're ready, that's the best time to sell. Interestingly enough, I don't know when you're listening to this, but we're in November right now. And a lot of people will also list during this time just because there are less listings, so less competition. There are still buyers, especially here in North Texas, and people want to get into their new home before those holidays start, end of November through December. So that also ends up being a pretty great time. The pictures aren't as beautiful because, everything's not lush anymore. But that's okay. We can sell your house even if the pictures aren't beautiful. So I hope that helps you understand there are some key times in our cycle here in real estate, but there's not a best time. The best time is when you need to sell. All right, so my next question, how can I sell my home quickly? Right? Yes, we want your home sold. Yes, we do. And there's always a way to get it done faster. The first thing is you want your home staged. So I will either bring in a stager or I will help you stage with the furniture that you have. It just really depends on your market, what your comparable homes look like, and how they've been staged. Staged homes do sell faster and typically at a higher price. So stage your home. Don't skip that part. The next thing, price. Price is king. Always, 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 always. If your home is priced too high, it will sit. If your home is priced correctly or a little bit lower than, what we think market value and comps say, that is good because that will drive multiple offers. And once you're in a multiple offer situation, you're going to feel really good as a seller because now people are competing to buy your home. So pricing is key. You want to stage your home. You want to showcase what makes your home unique. So even if you were in a neighborhood where there is a lot of, I don't love to call them track homes, but if they have the same layout and they're not all, the same, we want to look at what is different and special about your home. So even if your neighbor 4 doors down has the same floor plan as you and they're selling at the same time as you are going to sell your home, what's different? Do you have built-ins? Is your flooring an upgrade? What makes your home shine? And we really want to focus on that. Then we want to talk about repairs. A lot of times when I come in on a listing appointment, most often it's carpet and paint. So if you've got handprints on the wall, that's not great. We want to make a great first impression, not only for photos and the video, but also when a potential buyer comes into your home to view it, we want to make sure that your home is sparkling. So there is a way to clean it, there's a way to stage it, and any repairs that need to be done, do them on the front end because it's even the little things, and I'm not talking about an overhaul. We don't need to put a new kitchen in. But if your fence is missing pieces, that should be fixed. If your carpet has stains all over it, replace it. You will make that money back most likely. And paint, fresh paint. The other thing that always helps, I think, sell a home faster is clean windows. You would be shocked at the number of people that they forget that maintenance. So we're going to do maintenance and repairs. We're going to stage your home, and then we're going to market it. So hire a realtor, get your home marketed, because the more eyes that are on your home, the faster it is going to sell. And never forget, price is key. Just because you feel like you really want your home to sell for a certain number, it doesn't mean that the market will bear that number. So look at the data points, talk to your agent, interview more than one agent, and ask them what they're going to do to get your house sold. So I hope that kind of helps answer that question. Let's see what we have next. How should I prepare to sell my home? Another great question. And we touched on it a little bit. So essentially, we want you to do paint and carpet if they need to be done. Power wash the exterior. Make the landscaping look neat. That is the first thing that people see when they come in your house. They are going to walk up your sidewalk most likely, and they are going to get that great first impression. The rule of thumb that I always hear is 8 seconds. When a buyer comes into your home, you have about 8 seconds to make that good impression. So anything that they're going to see in those first 8 seconds, that's what we need to prepare for. So get rid of stuff you don't use. No clutter. Depersonalize. I love family photos. I do. Let's pare down those because you want your buyer to envision themselves in this home, not to look at your beautiful vacation. Do you understand? So hopefully that helps answer that question, and that's how you prep. And most importantly, hire a realtor. They'll guide you through. It gets overwhelming, and their job is to give you the data so that you can make the best decision for you. Let's see. What do we have next? How should a seller choose if they have more than one offer? This is actually a great question. Probably going to say that about every question. But when I am going through, especially in a multiple offer situation with my sellers, I remind my sellers of what they told me on the front end in that very first listing appointment we had. So they are going to tell me what's important to them. Here are some things that I hear all the time. Price. Obviously, price. Let's see what else. Contingencies. There's a lot of different contingencies. The biggest one I see written into contracts that I'm presenting to a lot of my sellers is that their buyer may have to sell a home prior to being able to purchase this home. If at all possible, I like to steer, that's not a clean offer, in the same way that it's scary. You just don't know what's going to happen. And now your sale is riding on this other sale. So in that situation, I typically ask that buyer's agent, are you the listing agent for your buyer? And is your home under contract? Is it listed? Sometimes I'll be presenting offers to my sellers and they have a contingency where the buyer must sell their property before they can purchase the new one. And the home isn't even on the market yet. That typically scares my sellers. So we want to look at all those contingencies. Then there's some things that you might not necessarily think are important, but hear me out. What is their down payment? We want to know that, because if you are putting 20% down, that is going to be a stronger offer than if you're putting 3% down. You know, I always have the lender that comes with the offer. I call them, I make sure that they're in good standing, and I always ask, are they pre-approved or are they pre-qualified? Have you started looking at their docs yet? Because we want to make sure that when my seller chooses to execute a contract and accept an offer, we want to make sure that this buyer is in good standing and that they have gone through and started this process. So we're looking for strong offers. We want little to no contingencies if possible. We want cash. Cash is king. Always, 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 always. Remember, if you are purchasing in cash, you may not necessarily need an appraisal. A lot of times in these situations, we have 30 to 45-day closes here. Typically, I mean, everything's negotiable, right? But sometimes the appraisers are backed up and that can delay the whole process, because once we're under contract, we're under contract. So we want the process to be smooth. So we want to know who they're working with. We don't want a ton of contingencies. We love cash. And then if you are going to pick an offer that is attached to a loan, how much are they putting down? Those are my big takeaways. This is kind of the best way I can help my sellers make a decision. And sometimes, y'all, there really is only one offer, and that's fine too. This is more if you're laying out competing offers, because if you have an all cash offer that's full price, that might be a stronger offer, and the seller might choose that offer over another offer that might be higher, but it's attached with contingencies. So that is what we want to look for. And I hope that helps you, because it gets tricky. It gets tricky, and you want to pick the right offer, because it breaks my heart when these deals fall apart and then the listing has to go back on the market, because everyone's going to want to know why. And as a seller, you've got to tell me as your agent what to say. So we want to pick a strong offer if we have one. This next question piggybacks a little bit on the last one. So the question is, what happens after a seller receives offers? In the state of Texas, I am required, as your listing agent, to present every single offer that comes my way for you. So we can do that however you'd like. Typically, I will sit down, I make a little sheet, I highlight for you. These are the things we will look at. But from a buyer's perspective, and there is a whole episode on this, so please check it out. This is kind of what happens. The buyer's agent is going to submit the offer to the listing agent. The listing agent is going to present that offer to the seller, and then the seller is going to make a choice. So if the seller doesn't like something in that offer, you kind of have to go back to the drawing board, and sellers have to be aware of this. So you can take the offer as is. It comes with the buyer already having signed the offer. And then if they choose to, because they love the offer, the seller just signs and then we execute the contract. And that means the house is under contract. But a lot of times there is a little negotiation and there is some back and forth. So for example, let's say I list a house for $500,000 and my seller's excited. They want $500,000. We get an offer. I present the offer. The offer is for $490,000. What is the seller? What are their options? They can say no, thank you, and that offer's dead. And I go back and say, sorry, they just said no. They can accept it as it is, or they can come back to the buyer and say, okay, $490,000, but these are some other terms that I would like in this offer. And then the buyer gets to decide, are they going to play ball or are they going to walk away? Because if you don't accept the offer as is, you don't know that your buyer is going to come back and negotiate. Usually they do, but I think it's really important that sellers know that. So that is what happens. You submit an offer, it gets presented. The seller decides yay or nay, or can we make some adjustments, little negotiation. And if you can meet in the middle and everyone agrees, sign the contract and we move on to the next part of that phase. So hopefully that helps you understand what happens when you submit that offer. Y'all, these questions have been so great. Thank you for sending them in. I hope the answers I've given you have helped you out. And always, always, always like, follow, subscribe, tell a friend, tell your mom, tell everybody. Come home with Jennah. Bye, y'all.